Hey, it's Paula with Early Vote Action, and today we have a very special guest that we are interviewing. We have Jondavid or JD Longo, and he is a mayor, but also used to be a Pennsylvania state director with Early Vote Action. A man that's done so many things. You've probably seen him around, and I'm just really grateful for you to take the time to be here today. I know that you are busy, you have so many things going on, and so we really appreciate you just taking the time to just come on here and chat with us about a recent experience you had in terms of voter registration.
Thank you, Paula. Let me say it's a pleasure to be with you. Thanks for taking the time to chat with me. Inspired by all of the work and great things that you do. And so thank you very much for this opportunity.
Yeah, so first I just want to have you briefly introduce yourself. I mean, everyone watching honestly should know who you are. If they don't, it's their loss. But for those that don't, why don't you just give us a quick little brief introduction?
Sure. So my name is Jondavid Longo, but all of my friends call me JD. And I have been, it is true, I am the mayor of Slippery Rock, Pennsylvania. I've been the mayor of Slippery Rock, Pennsylvania since January of 2018. I came to Slippery Rock after a short stint in the United States Marine Corps. I was an infantry rifleman, went to Afghanistan, came home looking to get an education, enrolled at Slippery Rock University, and bought my home in the same breath as I enrolled, and I made Slippery Rock my home permanently. Ran for mayor and decided that I wanted to do something in my community, give back, continue my service after leaving the uniformed armed services. And I thought, what better way than to get involved in local politics? And my real goal, Paula, was to try to reel in a lot of the wasteful spending that I noticed on our level at the time. Our council was dominated by Democrats who loved to tax and spend. We were the second highest tax municipality in all of Butler County whenever I took office. But since then, we have not raised property taxes one time since I've been in office. Very proud of that. We've slashed our public debt by 75%, and we are continuing on a good way, I believe. And we're taking cues, of course, and learning lessons from the successes of other conservative administrations, and none more than President Trump and his amazing administration. But aside from that, I wore a different hat for the 2024 presidential election cycle, and that was the hat of Pennsylvania State Director for Early Vote Action. My relationship with Scott Pressler started in 2019 whenever I started speaking to him about opportunities for community cleanups in the Pittsburgh or Western Pennsylvania area. We partnered on that, and we've been great friends ever since. So whenever Scott and the team asked me to help lead the charge in Pennsylvania for the 2024 cycle, I was honored, and I'm still continuing that fight today. I'm very much involved in voter registration efforts. I'm also a Republican committeeman, and I take all of this very seriously because I think it all lends success to what it is that you and I, as conservatives in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and beyond, expect out of our local, state, and federal government. And it all starts with registering Republican voters so that we can elect candidates to enact the policies and the laws that you and I want out of our government.
Definitely. Well, there's nothing you haven't done, is my takeaway from this. I got to meet you a couple of months ago, and so I'm just always excited to hear about all the things you're doing. I mean, you're one of the most impressive people, I think, really in this space. There's so many people that talk a big game but don't go out and do, and you are definitely a doer, and
Thank
so
you.
that you're not one of those people. But the real reason we wanted to have you on today is talking about a recent experience that you had, and I'll let you get into it more. I saw it on my Twitter feed, or X, sorry, Elon. I don't want to dead name the platform. Um, but it was a recent experience you had where you convinced a nurse to change her voter registration. She was fed up with the Democrats, she felt left behind, and you were able to change her mind. And so just maybe briefly get into how that conversation even started, how this all went down, and just tell us what happened.
Sure. Thank you very much. So, I mean, I'm blessed. My wife and I are blessed. We just got married in April of 2024. We didn't waste any time. And so we found out that we were pregnant really just a couple of weeks before the July 13th rally, where I accidentally told the world after the fact, whenever, everybody was asking me about my experience there, I accidentally blabbed and said, that my pregnant wife and I were in the crossfire there. And that's kind of how we let the world know, and all of our family and friends included, that we were expecting. But fast forward to February 7th. around 9 a.m. We gave birth to our first child, a daughter, Valentina, who was supposed to come on Valentine's Day, but came a little bit sooner. And I was in the room with my wife. She was recovering, and the nurse came in. She was fantastic. This lady, by the way, I have to tell you. I mean, we were treated like gold there, by everyone, but this nurse in particular, we just loved and adored her, and it was immediate. Symbiosis between my wife and I and her. We understood each other. It just felt natural. And I came to find out the reason why. It's because she thinks like us and she talks like us and she does the things we do, believes in the things that we believe. And what gave it away was whenever I was filling out the paperwork, and you get a lot of paperwork whenever you have kids, by the way, and you have to fill out, of course, their name and all of this other information. Um, it asks you to name the birthing parent. I thought that was ridiculous. And I know you do too, Paula.
I'm
And I know our friend
laughing.
Riley does as well. Right. And so I read that and I scoffed. I audibly scoffed. I went, "Oh," something to the effect of, "Oh my gosh, can you believe this?" My wife said, "What's that, honey?" I said, "They want to know who the birthing parent is." And my wife said, "Wouldn't you just say mother? Why can't you just say mother?" And that's at this point where I saw the nurse turn around and smile and jeer. And she goes, it's just ridiculous. Like I know it's crazy, but that's the paperwork we have. So I'm sorry, but just fill it out. Like we know that she's the mother. But I agree with you. It's absurd. And I said, that just goes to show you the lunacy that we are trying to get away from. And thank God, I led with two. Thank God that we just had success in 2024 and we have President Trump's administration and all of these great things. That are moving forward. And then I started to talk about how I felt lucky that having a daughter, I didn't have to feel as scared as I was before during the Biden administration, that my daughter was going to grow up in a United States where she was going to be robbed. As a female of her identity and not treated with the dignity and respect that females and women in the United States deserve, and especially in sports because my wife is a lifelong hockey player. She ended up coaching hockey at the collegiate level as well. And these were concerns of ours, but no more, thanks to President Trump and thanks to all of the great work being done by patriots across the United States. And again, I have to give a shout out to individuals like Riley Gaines who helped to push those things forward while we're on the topic. So as I'm talking about this, I can see that she's agreeing with me. And she said, JD, I've been a lifelong Democrat since I was 18. I'm almost 40 now, but I can tell you that I just don't feel like these people really represent me. And I always vote Republican. And I said, well, let me ask you, nurse, are you prepared to come on board with the grand old party and ride in for the big win with us? And she said, well, can you help me do that? And I said, absolutely. Do you have your driver's license on you? And she said, yes, I do. I said, it'll take 3 minutes of your time. So I pulled my laptop out and I got to work on that, walking her through the process. And the thing that stuck out to me in that moment was almost a feeling of guilt because I just had my newborn. I'm spending quality time with my wife and my daughter. And I was thinking, a little birdie in my head was saying, should you really be working right now? But here's the thing, Paula, I don't consider it work, and I consider it my duty as the father now of this new baby girl here in our country who is depending on people like us to make sure that we're continuously fighting for her and fighting for the next generation, that the needle is going to be moving in the right direction. And what better way than to increase our Republican majority in the United States and flip Pennsylvania red so that we can make sure that we are pushing forward the things that you and I need to happen, including the protection of women and females and their privacy in their safe spaces and in sports as well. All of these things considered, I thought, here's my chance. We can start to move the needle in that direction again a little bit more. And I took it, and I'm grateful that I did.
I'm grateful that you did. I don't know how much you know about me, but I used to be a Pennsylvania resident, and I don't feel like the governor of Pennsylvania currently wants to protect women and girls. In fact, when he was attorney general, he wanted to encourage legislation that invited men into women's private spaces and on women's sports teams. So I really hope we continue to
Right.
register these Republicans, and when he runs again, we need to make him scared and make him not think that he can be reelected so easily, especially in the state of Pennsylvania. So I'm grateful for your help on this because, again, every voter counts. But my bigger part, and just following up from what you've just explained, is she had mentioned she was a registered Democrat but had been voting Republican. Did you ask her sort of when her shift came, or when that change happened for her, or how long into her time being a Democrat that she really felt that way?
I did. I was lucky to have been at the hospital there for a few days, so I really got to know her and some of her background. And she has such an incredible story and a trajectory, and we just love her to pieces. But I understood that what is typical for a lot of Pittsburgh families, and this is probably true in a lot of towns across Pennsylvania or in New Jersey or in our region in general. Places like Pittsburgh that used to be heavily industrialized, lots of mills, lots of steel mills, factories, etc., that had a heavy union presence, ended up creating generational Democrats, but they weren't liberal by any means or progressive. These were very conservative people. They had very strong traditions and ties to their cultures and to their religion. I think about Polish folks, Italian folks, Ukrainian, Eastern European folks who came looking for jobs, who were brought into these unions and told that they had to vote Democrat. Well, fast forward a little bit to this nurse who grew up in a Democrat family, much like I did. I mean, I can tell you, like my grandparents and uncles, they were union members. They voted Democrat, but they were always conservative patriots. Just like my family started to notice a shift in the way that the Democratic Party was representing them, so too do I think that this nurse saw that the party was not speaking anything that she found to be true. And it took a little nudge for her, but I think what really stands out to me was that she noticed what she said was during the Obama administration, after she had voted for Barack Obama the first time, she saw what she described to me as complete and utter failure. And she didn't think that as a young person that she was having a whole lot of opportunity for advancement in her field. She wasn't feeling as excited about it, and she wasn't sure about the state of the nation and where we were heading. And I think that is the reason why and the way in which she was motivated to start to shift her thinking. Fast forward again to seeing President Trump in action. I think she really got a taste during his first term of what the United States could be under the strong leadership of an individual like President Trump and an administration like his. And so over the last 4 years, under the Biden administration, she saw a repeat 2.0 of the failures of the Obama administration, and saw even worse, honestly, under Biden, and then saw the promise of despair and nightmare under what would have been a Kamala Harris presidency. And so she was moved by all of those things. And thank goodness that we had our paths cross at that time. And if I could say anything about that experience, Paula, I would just say this. All it takes is a conversation sometimes, right? I will be at the grocery store or sitting down to dinner with my wife. If I hear anybody around me complaining about anything at all, I ask them, are you registered to vote at your current address? And that's especially true when I hear them complaining about something that I'm complaining about, because I know where their thoughts are. Typically, it means they're a conservative American, and they might just not have found out yet that they are a Republican voter, and we just need to push them in the right direction.
Definitely. I mean, this is how we won Pennsylvania. This is how we won the election. It's having these conversations. I know even myself in my personal life, there were many individuals that are, yeah, more conservative people that previously for Democrats that I was able to also push over the edge in these personal conversations, especially with my personal experience with trans athletes in women's sports. I mean, that issue really spoke to a lot of people. But speaking of that issue, obviously that's my personal experience. Did you find that there were certain issues that she was also frustrated on? And then also, how do you think that we can use those types of conversations to bring across more voters and get more Democrats? What issues do you think that we should talk about and raise awareness to?
I think that the thing that we have going for us, Paula, and this is a great question, is that we as conservatives and as Republicans only need to talk about the common sense things, the things that make a difference in everybody's lives, to really get that message across. When I talk to nurses like her, I speak to any voters at all in the electorate, I hear the same things over and over again. They're concerned about their pocketbooks. They're concerned about the promise of a brighter future for themselves and their family. They're concerned about national defense and our respect on the world stage. With that being said, they're also concerned that we're going to get dragged into a war that we don't belong in. They don't want to see their fathers and mothers and daughters and brothers shipped off to a far away place, to a country where we are giving them money to continue to hate us and not to reciprocate any kind of mutual respect. And so these things, again, they're just common sense things. And yes, of course, the thing about grocery prices and them having been harped on for so long, also is something that resonates with the general population in the United States. It's not a left or a right issue. That's just a purely human issue. We want to make sure that the cost of living and housing is affordable to us. And I think that everybody realized that under the failures of the Biden-Harris administration, we unfortunately get to see President Trump inherit this awful, awful inflation that is going to take a little bit of time for him and his administration to tackle. But nonetheless, they are tackling it, and people like this nurse and other people in the electorate see and understand that it's going to be a Trump administration that is necessary to get us back to normalcy, economically speaking, and to help create an environment that's conducive to economic growth and development for all Americans. And that is a message that resonates with everyone.
I mean, I think the results of the election really speak to where the American people are. And I think, yeah, again, affordability has been a huge thing. Foreign wars, obviously this transgender issue and birthing parents. But we still have work to do to flip states like Pennsylvania. I mean, we're breaking up the gap each and every day, especially with Scott Presler on the ground. But we need everyday people to help out. So if you have advice, because you're amazing at this, advice for the everyday person, what can they do to help get more registered Republican voters? And I know you talked about having these conversations, but just give advice to those that we need on our side, helping and getting these voters registered and getting people to go out and vote in these elections.
Thanks for asking, Paula. It's much easier than people might think. Again, it comes down to just being able to be comfortable with having a conversation. And oftentimes it starts right at home. It starts at the dinner table. It starts in conversations with your family and your friends, in getting comfortable with asking them about the things that matter to them. And oftentimes you'll realize that you have a lot more in common politically than not. And that is a catalyst or a medium through which you can start to affect that positive change in the lives of the people around you by getting them to register to vote along with you and be part of the voting bloc that's going to help restore the United States, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and all of the states in the Union to their rightful glory. That translates, of course, out into the world. Once you get comfortable with having those conversations with people that you know and love, you get a little bit more comfortable and a little bit more skilled, let's say, at having those conversations with complete strangers. But that is probably the best advice that I can give anybody. Don't be scared to start these conversations. Oftentimes we're told we're not supposed to talk about religion, we're not supposed to talk about politics, and just let it all be. And however the cards fall is how the cards will fall. But if you feel compelled to make a difference in your community or in the lives of people around you, and you believe in your heart of hearts that something needs to be done, then you need to accept the fact that you are in a position to make a difference and that you can if you just open your mouth. That's half the battle. Once you connect with those people and you connect with them on a personal level, you learn who they are, they trust you, and then they will start to open up to you. And it was amazing to hear the things that people will tell you, and you'll be amazed at the ways in which you'll be able to take those experiences and anecdotes that they give you and translate them into reasons why they need to register to vote, to exercise their constitutional right to elect our representatives in government to affect a good and great change for us, according to the will of us, the people.
I mean, that is exactly what this country is founded on, and we really need to remember that because there are so many people that don't want to vote or don't want to be active in elections, especially we see much lower turnout when it comes to governor's years and off years and even midterms. I mean, it's a lower turnout than the presidential election because people don't think that this stuff is going to affect them. I mean, even we were on the street the other day in New Jersey and some guy said, "I don't really feel like voting. I'm not going to make a difference." But you will make a difference, and that's why we have to encourage every single one of these people to get out there and vote. So I just wanted to give you an opportunity to tell us about what's next, what you hope to see in the future, what you're maybe working on or what you're seeing in Pennsylvania. Just tell us what's going on with you and your life.
Sure, sure. Well, two things are very important to me right now. Paula. One is the fact that we have three Democrat Pennsylvania Supreme Court justices who are up for retention. There's a question of retention coming up on this year's ballot. The question will be, do you as Pennsylvanians want to retain these Supreme Court justices on the bench of the Pennsylvania Supreme Court? And it is imperative that we all get out to vote, Republicans and independents alike, get out to vote so that we can vote no to their retention. And I'll tell you why, Paula. These are the Pennsylvania Supreme Court justices that time and again failed the Pennsylvania citizens and taxpayers in their duty to protect and defend us. And I'll tell you why. First of all, they upheld gerrymandering that was unconstitutional in many of our opinions, that allowed for the Pennsylvania State House to be continuously dominated by the Democratic Party. Of course, those gerrymandered lines were drawn by the Democrat majority, so shame on them. This is also the Pennsylvania Supreme Court that upheld decisions for then Governor Wolf and his Attorney General turned Governor Josh Shapiro to implement draconian shutdowns on us that impeded on our ability to put food on the table and provide for our families. These are the Supreme Court justices that refused to hear any cases brought forth by President Trump's President Trump's campaign or any of the Pennsylvania GOP individuals or leaders who decided that they wanted the court to hear cases that were concerning potential for election fraud. They flat out refused to hear any of these cases. They said that the president and the GOP had no case, which I think many of us have disagreed with. And so for all of these many reasons, we need to make sure that we're getting out and we're mobilizing just in the same way that we did in 2024. If we vote no to the retention of all of those, we have an opportunity next time around to put Republicans or conservative judges on that bench that will then solidify our Republican control of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Right now, the Pennsylvania State Senate is controlled by Republicans, which is great. All of our statewide row offices are controlled by Republicans. If we get a Republican majority on the bench in the Supreme Court, we will be in a great way to protect and defend the interests of Pennsylvanians. And second with that is the fact that right now there is a tie in the Pennsylvania State House. It's 101 Republicans to 101 Democrats. We have a special election in the 35th, Pennsylvania State House Legislative District. That includes towns like White Oak, Munhall, West Mifflin, Clairton, just south of Pittsburgh. And we have an opportunity to put a Republican in that seat so that we can get a Republican majority then in the Pennsylvania State House of Representatives, which will give us everything but the governorship. If we pull these two things off this year, Paula, Pennsylvania is ripe for the taking. And as Scott Pressler continues to remind us, we are under 100,000 registered voters, if you discount any of the inactive voters on the Democrat side, from turning Pennsylvania into a Republican majority. We are so close, Paula. And so that's right now what I'm very focused on. And I hope that we can get something done. And I hope that we'll be able to feed off of each other and motivate each other across the line with our neighbors like you in New Jersey to make sure that we are creating not just a better Pennsylvania, but a better northeastern region for the United States.
Absolutely. I mean, I've lived my entire life in this northeast region of the United States, so I have a special interest in making sure that we save our states. And obviously, the work we're doing at Early Vote Action with Scott Pressler, we're continuing to push along in Pennsylvania. We're pushing along in New Jersey. And we can't do any of this stuff if it's not for people like you on the ground, seeing the people, talking to the people in Pennsylvania, in your towns, in all of these areas that you might travel to. And so we are at Early Vote Action are just incredibly grateful to you for everything. And we want to get you back on to talk about the next election cycles in the future. I mean, when Josh Shapiro tries to rerun, I want you talking about it, and I want you on criticizing the horrible things he's done to the state, the horrible thing he's done to women in the state. Again, he allows men to take over our spaces. He's had that stance. That's something I have a personal vested interest in. And so we will definitely keep talking to you, keep elevating your voice. I want you to get on Twitter and show me all the conversations that you're having with these people in everyday conversations. I mean, just keep showing us how to do it, because I don't think there's a better role model in converting voters in Pennsylvania than you. So again, that's exactly why we wanted to have you on and have this conversation. And so we are just so grateful for your leadership, for your desire, and for even doing that when you obviously just had a newborn, but it's not work, it's for your daughter and for the next generation.
Exactly. And the feeling is mutual, Paula. Thank you so much for all you're doing. Thank you for continuing the good fight. It's an honor to be on this team with you, and I look forward to cooperating and coordinating with you in the near future that we can continue to move the needle in the right direction. So thanks again so much for having me.